The government has scrapped its plans to introduce legislation requiring all landlords to increase the energy efficiency on their rented homes to an EPC Band C rating. And this brings to an end multiple months, perhaps even years, of speculation as to exactly what the government's intentions are regarding EPCs in the rental sector. In a major announcement in the last month, Rishi Sunak rode back on several of the government's green initiatives, including this requirement. Now, Bath obviously is a city with a high preponderance of listed buildings, and therefore this was set to be a real challenge for landlords locally. This means now that the minimum requirement for landlords continues to be an EPC band rating E. If your home is rated F or G, in principle, you cannot bring it to the rental market unless it is registered for an exemption. This does at least mean that landlords can proceed with some certainty now and plan exactly what they intend to do with their properties. Some landlords will still choose to improve the energy rating of their properties for environmental reasons, but it is no longer required for legislative reasons. And in a real treat to lettings legislation nerds such as me, there was not one but two legal updates in the last month which you should be aware of. The other one was a sneaky little update to the How to Rent Guide. This is a critical document that must be served at the start of all brand new tenancies. Failure to do so, in fact failure to serve the correct version of the document, can mean that a landlord will not be able to serve a Section 21 notice later in the tenancy to take back possession of their property. So the fact that there's a new How to Rent Guide in circulation is very important, and you should make sure that your letting agent, or if you're managing your property yourself, has served the updated guide at the start of any new tenancy. While we're discussing legislation, what of the Renters Reform Bill? Where's that gone? Well, we're now back in session in Parliament, and I fully expect that it will be back on the agenda fairly soon. At their party conference, the Conservatives have reiterated their commitment to the bill, so I'm sure that we'll start to see some progress. I'll let you know as soon as that heaves back into action. And now to the local market. Well, here are all of the statistics that we usually review in these monthly updates to give you an idea of exactly what's going on here in Bath. Our average letting time over the last month, that's from placing the property on the market to the landlord accepting an offer from a proceedable tenant, has been 19 days. Slightly higher than the last few months, so are things slowing down slightly? Well, if we break it down slightly more, we'll actually see a slightly varied market, and markets within markets. If you just look at the average letting time for the lower end of the market, perhaps one bedroom apartments, so at the minute that's probably any property letting below £1,200 per month, then that average letting time decreases to 11 days. We've also then got a separate little bubble at the top end of the market, the prime market. And if we look at the properties we let in the last month over the rent of £2,300 a month, then that average letting time diminishes even further to just 8 days. So what we're really seeing are the properties that are stuck in the middle of those two categories are taking slightly longer to let. There's slightly less demand for those 2-3 bed flats and homes that are coming to the market. They are still letting in relatively good time, the average being 19 days, but the real demand is at those two disparate ends of the market. Moving on now to average rents, as it ever has been for the last few months, that is an average of 100% of the advertised asking rent. If you are getting offers below the asking rent on your rental property, then the likelihood is that it is overpriced on the market. You should be achieving in the current market the advertised rent. So what's happening to rents? Well, on average over the last month, we saw them increase upon reletting by 7.7%, which is more or less there or thereabouts average for the whole year. Again, if we look at the demand for the lower portion of the market, below £1,200 per month, then that goes up to 9.8%. So again, that heightened demand for those smaller properties, the less expensive properties, has driven up rents even higher. At the upper end of the market, it's actually more or less on average at 7.7%. Demand from tenants has shot up in the last month, and this is something we've noticed palpably day to day in our office as the phones have been ringing off the hook whenever we've placed especially those smaller properties onto the market. Between August of this year and September of this year, we saw an increase in the number of new tenants registering with us looking for homes of 64%. Now that might have been because we had a slight dip during August, so if we compare it year on year, September 2022 to 2023, again there's still an increase of 7.7%. So demand for rental property in Bath is still on the up. I wasn't even sure if that was possible because there has been such demand lately, and there's no doubt about it, with rents going in the same direction, if you're a landlord in possession of a property, it is still not a bad time to bring it to the rental market. We're obviously heading into the autumn months, during which we expect interest to dwindle slightly until we get into the quieter winter months of November and December. That's all for this month. I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.